everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press. We are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after I think it's game 16. I can't even remember anymore at this point in the season. I forget that kind of stuff. But a game that, or a show. Let's talk about the show. We've got a lot going on for you in this show. We've got the return of Sammy the Scarf Cosentino. Sammy's going to be in town because tomorrow is a Hockey Night in Canada game. Arizona Coyotes, Winnipeg Jets. Harn Ryan Singh's got your call along with Sammy Cosentino and your trusty rinkside reporter in Sean Reynolds. He'll be there as well, everybody. We've got Nino Niederreiter 2-point game and the top line. Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Alex Iafallo with no points. So we are sure to hear renewed calls by Ken Wiebe to break up the third line to get Nino Niederreiter back onto that line to get it going. Stay tuned for that. And hey, we have the return of one pessimistic Renny, I guess we could say. A lot of people have saying I'm all sunshine and rainbows this year. And, it's a game like this that can kind of knock a guy out of that mindset. Let's get into this. The Buffalo Sabres were the better team out there tonight. If you didn't see that, you weren't watching the game. This is a game in which you take a look at it. Connor Hellebuyck is probably the deciding factor in this. I know there was a lot of questions after the game about, what did you like about your team's ability to hold the lead and do this and do that, all these kind of things. The Jets allowed 3 breakaways in that game, right? Connor Hellebuyck's toe save saves the game at one point there. The push comes entirely from, the Buffalo Sabres. Never mind the idea that the Jets score 3 goals on 4 shots in the third period. One of those shots being a gift from God that, I checked with, some former NHLers and stuff like that and thought, is this maybe one of those things? Like at first we were wondering if maybe Nick Ehlers saw something and shot the puck on net, knew what he was doing. He said afterwards, he just floated the puck towards the net and it went in. And I get it that the defenseman screened the goaltender. I think there's a lack of awareness there by Comrie. You got to know where the puck is at all times. I think he got caught being casual. It's in the back of their net. Again, a little bit of a gift from God. We by the barometer of which goaltender was better tonight, no doubt Connor Hellebuyck was the better goaltender. That's why they're winning this game. I get it. I get there's going to be a bunch of you out there. I've heard it for years who are going to be like, it's just one game. They won the game. What are you complaining about? I wish that I had that eternal optimism to just always be like, it's a win, so nothing could possibly be wrong with it. And I don't want to go too far into this. This right now is a one-off. And every game like this with a team that's been playing like the Winnipeg Jets, they've won 5 of 6 games right now. When a team is playing like that and you haven't seen this kind of game from them, you got to assume that it's a one-off, right? But I think you have to take a look at this situation. I look at this game. This is an old school Winnipeg Jets game. And when I say old school, I'm talking about the old school Winnipeg Jets that for years people would come up to me and be like, what is wrong with this team? I don't get it. They've got all the talent. They've got the skill. They've got the goaltending. They've got the goal scoring. They've got all these things. Why can't this team figure it out? And we would go back to all those years starting in 2019 of the Jets getting into a pattern of playing games and winning games. This has been a theme in years past that we talked about on this show over and over again, where sometimes getting away with a game like that is a great thing, right? You get the 2 points, you move on, you learn your lessons, you move on. Sometimes getting away with a game like that can be problematic. And I think for years it was problematic for the Winnipeg Jets to win games that they probably didn't deserve to win, but somehow came on top. And I think that became a pattern with that team. This, to me, is an old school Winnipeg Jets game. Why should that be something that I'm not saying it's a concern yet, but why is it something that a fan base, the coaches, the people who cover this team for a living could keep an eye on? Why? Well, this Winnipeg Jets team last year was dominant for the first half of the season, and then they fell back in the words of their coaching staff, they fell back in to their old habits. Those same habits I'm talking about from 2019, where you start getting a little bit casual. You start winning games with opportunistic scoring. You start being a little bit laissez-faire with your defensive structure and let your goaltender bail you out, right? That's what happened last season. Okay. So I think the big test, and I was the guy on this show just a little while ago who said, I'm convinced the Winnipeg Jets are a team that they've got it figured out. They're similar to what they were last year. And what I see from them going forward is I don't see them making those same mistakes. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, how could you? How could you go down that road again where you just let your game fall apart, fell into bad habits, wanted to play the easier style of game? How could you do that again after what you experienced last year, only to see that when you reapply yourself like the Jets have this year, you get the results that you get? So listen, I asked Scott Arniel about this afterwards, and the way that I asked him many times last season, Rick Bowness would walk in after a win like that. We weren't used to this in the Paul Maurice era, because Paul Maurice is the kind of coach that every win's a good win. It doesn't matter what happens. You never complain. You never criticize a win, kind of thing. Rick Bowness did not subscribe to that. Rick Bowness would come out and torch his team some nights after wins, where he would come out and say, if we think we're going to continue playing like that, we're going to be in trouble. So I asked Scott Arniel about that through that lens. Like, a lot of times, if it was Rick Bowness walking in here, this may have been one of those nights where Rick Bowness would walk in and he'd have a lot of heated words for his team, right? Scott Arniel said he's not going down that road. The reason he's not is because this isn't a pattern, right? This is a one-off right now. So the Winnipeg Jets, I mean, he had fully said, like, the Winnipeg Jets, they weren't fast enough. They weren't good enough defensively on this night. This is a game that their goaltender probably wins for them. I couldn't agree with him more in that, but he doesn't see a pattern, and he's right. I can't think of games other than maybe the LA Kings game. I can't think of games where the Jets have played like this. So this is not a pattern. Don't sound the alarm bells. Don't ring the air siren. This is not a reason for all hands on deck kind of thing, reason to worry. We should treat this as though it's a one-off, because as of right now, all the evidence points to it being just a one-off. But this is the game that the Winnipeg Jets played tonight, and this win that they won is a step down the path that they have taken in the years past that has led to ruin. We know where that path takes us. The games where the Jets kind of go sleepy defensively, leave it all up to Connor Hellebuyck, score a number of opportunistic goals, and come away with a win. We know where that takes the Winnipeg Jets. They should know where it takes them to. We know that the coaching staff knows that. By God, the players should have learned that by this point with this team. So I think tomorrow is a game you watch to see a bounce back effort from the Winnipeg Jets. You watch to see them return to that suffocating, speedy, fast style that's brought them so much success this year. And you look back at this game and you can say, hey, it's just, we got the 2 points, learn from it, move on, as long as you learn from it. If the Winnipeg Jets do that, this is a one-off, that's fine, and there's no reason to panic. But that, to me, is an old school Winnipeg Jets game that is a weed to be rooted out of their system. And it's something that I think their coach is intent on doing starting tomorrow night against the Arizona Coyotes. That's my take on the whole thing. Time now to bring in the man with the best music in the business to get his take on the whole thing. Here comes Kenny Wiebe, everybody. Kenny Wiebe, you are looking like $1 million, my friend. Is you. That tell me about your pin?
Oh, this is You Can Play for the Pride Night. I don't have a Pride tie, so I did my best here. Just had to do my best.
Could have borrowed you mine. Johnny Lou had a really good looking Pride tie. You know what? It's interesting. Last year there was a Pride game, and I reached out and got Pride ties for myself and the rest of the crew who were calling that game. And I remember looking at the tie and saying, like, this has nothing to do. I hope I don't think people think I'm like attacking the rainbow tie. Just the rainbow tie that I got, it didn't seem like it was the proper colors, and it seemed like it was a little bit off. And when I looked at it, it didn't look like the nicest tie. When I threw it on, it looked really good and got like tons of shout outs and was really noticed nationally. This is an initiative. Yeah, I guess we should say that before we get going in anything here. One thing out of the disaster of the NHL trying to like rule out players and teams showing their, respect for and openness and welcoming to the LGBTQ plus community. One good thing that's come out of the debacle that they set up was it has allowed in the bounce back teams like the Winnipeg Jets to properly honor the community the way it deserves to be honored, and the way they did tonight with their pride jerseys and warm up, the way they did with a number of players, Nino Niederreiter, Dylan DeMello, and Nick Ehlers using the pride tape. Good on them. Good on you, Ken, for wearing that. Really important initiative. It looks like $1 million, like you do. Of course you do, because you're dressed to the nines in Vittorio Rossi gear, my man, as am I. That tie that I got that I was talking about got national attention. That's the kind of stuff you get down at Vittorio Rossi, ladies and gentlemen. So you know what to do. If you want to look like Ken, who looks like $1 million right now, head on down to Vittorio Rossi, walk in and loudly proclaim that Kenny and Renny sent you, ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up just right. Kenny, get to the game. What'd you see?
Yeah, I mean, I only caught the tail end of the soliloquy. Sorry, I was on gamer duty here today, so didn't get down to the room. I'm glad you asked Scott or Neil the question, and that sort of was how I led my story off, saying this is not the template the Winnipeg Jets want to be following. The only really good news out of that effort overall would have been Connor Hellebuyck looking sharp.
Yes.
I mean, there were one or two moments maybe it wasn't vintage, but there was a lot of vintage Hellebuyck in that game, Sean, is what I personally thought. And honestly, that's the most important development. That's one of the most important developments the Jets have. I mean, right now,
agreed.
He's a guy who I think can elevate, and I would say that this was 2 games in a row he has played very well, and that's a big time development for the Winnipeg Jets. Now, I was talking with Lauren Brissois this morning. He's excited about the start on Saturday against the Arizona Coyotes. And now it's up to him to kind of start taking those steps to start stacking strong starts. And that will be something that is important moving forward here for the Jets. But, the other things that you would like about the Jets' effort, Sean, Cole Perfetti extending his point streak, another really good shot, another efficient, 13-plus minutes for him. Really good shot. That's a shot that I want him to take more and more. I love the fact that he's looking for his shot from the slot. He fooled Eric Comrie. It was a really quick release special there. Nikolai Ehlers, obviously that's a, vintage. Ehlers is back, Sean, when he's dropping those, the quotes that he did today about, making fun of his own goal, of his goal. It wasn't an own goal, but, Nikolai Ehlers didn't have a lot going on for him. I can still remember, Sean, against the LA Kings when he looks to the ceiling after, he was in all alone on Cam Talbot and he shoots it into the netting. Today, it's a prayer from the left point. Owen Power wants to block it, but I don't think he actually touched it. And then he was like, oh, crap, if I don't block that now, oh, my goodness, now I've screened Eric Comrie and it's going in. And, man, that's the game winner. I mean, if you're Don Granato, you can't believe it. That's the game-winning goal, right? In a game like that. But, hey, that's all about, kind of making your own luck. I mean, I love the goal by Appleton. That's an awesome back post net drive and an absolutely perfect pass by Niederreiter as that line continues to play well. Didn't love the looseness of the Jets defensively, especially in the third period. I mean, Peterka breakaway on the first shift, or basically first minute in. That's an unreal pass by Rasmus Dahlin, Sean, and a great pickup by Dahlin. But in a 2-goal game, you cannot let someone get behind you if you want to be playing lockdown hockey, right?
Well,
no matter how great the pass is. He had 2 breakaways in the game.
2 breakaways. There were 3 breakaways in all. So I know that there was a lot of questions about, like, what did you like about the way this team locked that game down? They didn't lock that game down, allowing 3, the Hellebuyck's toe save, allowing the 3 breakaways,
outstanding,
a number of the other shots. This wasn't a case of the Winnipeg Jets, like, taking away any chance of them coming back in the game. This was the Winnipeg Jets tempting fate, and Connor Hellebuyck being the master of fate in that game.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I like the way that they played. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't like the way that they played defensively. It was too loose. I'm with you. That's. Anyways, this is a Scott Arniel vintage Randy Carlyle line. You don't critique wins. I get that. That's important. But what you do know is that in the video session tomorrow, there will be some things that show up on the highlighter that they will be looking to clean up, if you will. This would be filed under the classic, find a way to win without your A game. I think that's how I would boil this one down. Some good in that for sure, but I didn't like the way that they played, especially in the third period. I mean, that was a game that they could have easily lost. I would say in some ways fortunate, but again, that's part of good teams find a way to win when they don't have their best. So that's how I would say today. But I'm with you. That's not, if they play like that tomorrow against Arizona. Now there's something in the water. There's something in the water, for lack of a better term. You don't want the Jets to. And again, I don't think they will play that way tomorrow. Would be my best guess.
I don't either. And I do think that they could beat Arizona with that game like that tomorrow. The one thing that I've been trying to make clear throughout this is, I think you have to guard against this. This is like a cancer patient being vigilant and making sure that they go for all their screening afterwards, and making sure that this doesn't come back, because this has been the Winnipeg Jets' problem the last number of years. Is they're a very capable team, and then they start winning games they don't deserve, and they're like, well, man, we can win no matter how we play. Why are we playing so hard in the way that we do that before, when we can take nights off and still win games like that? It's actually pretty interesting, Ken, because coming into this, In Bones We Trust says, will Kenny attack Renny? This was before you came in, and I was honestly, I was not sure what your take was going to be on this. We're actually entirely kind of in sync on this. I'm glad you're seeing the same thing. I thought you'd pick up on that question that I asked Scott Arniel. I did find it was interesting, Ken, the way that Scott Arniel responded to that, because Scott Arniel seems to go a little bit to the Paul Maurice school of thought, of like never criticize a win kind of thing. Whereas that's not Rick Bowness, right? Rick Bowness is not at all afraid to call out a win that he doesn't think is a sustainable type of win. But I did get the sense, as you're talking about, from Scott Arniel, that he's looking at this right now and saying, like, we need to be different tomorrow against Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
Or if we play like this tomorrow against Arizona, then I'm going to start seeing some pattern recognition. Right now, it's a one-off. I don't want to see this become a pattern.
Yeah, no doubt. And like I said, there were parts of the Jets game that I really liked, and they had a slow start. It weren't generating much offensively, and then all of a sudden you look up, the shots are 7-6 in the first, and second period much better for the Jets. They look to be in complete control, and then you give up a breakaway goal, and Peterka robbed by Hellebuyck on the first one. I couldn't get a great look. I think he might have batted it out of the air on the rebound. Maybe it landed flat. I'm not 100% sure. Either way. Impressive by Hellebuyck on the first one, but then the Jets they didn't tighten it right up. I mean, again, it's fine. There are going to be games like this, and for the Jets, and we're not here to dump on the Jets, but they have another level. Like, they look like a team that hadn't played in a few days. They were flat and they didn't generate very much. So the second period was excellent. Jets in complete control. That is accurate. But they didn't put the foot down. And yes, they knew that Buffalo was going to be pushing, and they did. They were also very opportunistic in the second. So, were they in control? Yes, but they still only generated 5 shots. And it's not to critique the 3 goals on 5 shots. It's that guys, the Sabres are not exactly known as the Boston Bruins in terms of how they defend. So that would be my concern. Like, the Sabres are usually the team that's loose. So the fact that they didn't even generate 20 shots on net in the game, that is a bit of a concern for a team that has been very good offensively, but they still found a way to get 3. So, I mean, find a way. Yes, that's another check mark in the kit, but based on how they played in the trip and in this homestand going 3-1, they have another level, and they'll need that level tomorrow against a rested Coyotes team that's coming off a win over the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, finding a way to get it done is a great tool to have in your
good quality
toolkit if it's one that you only go out and try and pull out every once in a while, right? If you don't turn that into this is our game plan, then it's a great idea. We're going to bring in Sammy the Scarf here. Right away, I just wanted to throw out what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the pristine wake-up call of the game to the overall game of the Jets based on the theme of what we've been talking about right now. Winnipeg Jets need to wake up and kind of get back to what we've seen from them from the rest of this year, because what I've seen from the Winnipeg Jets for the vast majority of games this season, even a lot of the games that they've lost, and I know a lot of people are pointing out that the Jets have lost games this year that they probably deserve to win. A lot of people brought up Calgary.
Now they're even.
I couldn't agree more with that assessment. I think, though, if you're keeping score, the Winnipeg Jets have lost more games this year that they deserve to win than they've won games that they've deserved to lose. No doubt about it. But I'm going to say this time and time again. The Jets need to be vigilant when it comes to stuff like this, because this is the very issue the Winnipeg Jets have struggled with year after year after year, is going down this road, going into the snake charmer kind of stuff, trying to skill their way through games. The reason the Winnipeg Jets are a great team right now is because they've got a great system. They outwork everybody. They pressure everybody. They control time with the puck, scoring opportunities, those kind of things. That's the recipe that wins for the Jets. That wasn't that recipe here tonight. So let's give the Jets overall a pristine roofing wake-up call. And you know what that means. If you're wanting to get a pristine roofing wake-up call of your own for your house, for your siding, for your roofing, well, then you just got to give North End Rick the pristine roofing and siding wake-up call. Give him a call at 1-204-981-6289. If you don't want to call Rick, if you think he's busy, maybe messing around in the chat room, maybe throwing out some bad takes on the show, just give Pristine Roofing a call of your own, 1-204-237-7663. All right, it's time to bring in the man, the myth, the legend. He wasn't going to miss on this one. He's nice and toasty, even though the weather's nice here in Winnipeg. That doesn't mean you don't wear the scarf when your name is Sammy the Scarf. And there he is, knotted up like $1 million, looking like $1 million. Sammy, how you doing, my friend? Long time for the Kenny and Renny listeners. They've been calling your name, and finally you're here.
Buddy, that was the first thing I packed. Not the underwear, not the socks, not the suit, the scarf. The scarf needed to make an appearance. And you know what? Probably didn't even need the scarf with the weather. What a pleasant surprise making it in. Always a pleasure to see you two fine gentlemen. And always a pleasure to go into a game when the home team wins.
No doubt. I'm not sure what everyone else heard there. I heard Sammy's rocking the scarf and going commando on the show, and I'm all for it. Didn't pack the underwear. Ready for the show tomorrow. But before we get to the show tomorrow, Sammy, give me your takeaway from what you watched there tonight. Sammy and I, first period he watched with Ken, and then he came over for some real hockey talk for the second and third period with Renny. What'd you see out there, Sammy?
They had to get the double takes. But, I have to appreciate what the Jets media guys do there, because they keep you two separated one on each.
They're smart. They're smart.
I saw a team that didn't bring their A game and still found a way to win against a team that presses pretty hard. I mean, Buffalo, they're getting after it, and I love what Arneal was saying after the game. We looked at some clips between the second and the third, and it was like, they got 4 guys down below our goal line. Like, what's going on here? And they put on a real good press there at the end. I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of the call against Benson, but I guess when you're a kid, those are the beats you had to take.
I was thinking that was it. You think it was a youth thing? Just so everyone knows what we're talking about here, with like 2:20 left in the game, Josh Morrissey gives Zach Benson a little bit of a cross check from behind. Benson turns around, gives him some sweet chin music, and 3 Winnipeg Jets take him into the boards. And somehow Benson ends up with the only penalty out of that. Usually in a situation like that, refs will bend over backwards to not snuff out the possibility of a comeback in that game. But you think that's what it is, Sammy? The idea of it's, hey, you're a young kid in this league and you got to learn. You don't treat veterans, or you got to learn to treat the veterans with respect.
I didn't think it was horrible. It's a late game scrum. Like, I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, yeah, maybe they're trying to. It's funny because if you're cognizant of the fact that you're looking out there and you're seeing this guy's a rookie, you're also cognizant of the fact that he's coming back to the place where he made his name playing junior hockey just down the road. So, you think there might be a trade-off there. But I didn't think that call was – I didn't think it was great. I'm not usually one to get on the officials, but I just – in that situation, you want to see it go 5-on-5 and see what happens there. If it was egregious, maybe. I didn't think it was egregious. But we'll move past that. And at the end of the day, you win a game, you score 3 goals on 18 shots and you win a game. Like, I'm starting to mark the parade route and say, thank goodness, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who it was, but basically it's my buddy who coaches the Halifax Mooseheads, Jim Midgley. He was with the New York Rangers the last couple of seasons on Gerard Gallant's bench. And I, text them after games and stuff like that. And sometimes they'd go in there and not play their best. And I'd flip him a text and he'd just send a text back that said ski mask. We robbed one here tonight, boys. We got out of here with the ski mask on. So that was a bit of a ski mask game for the Jets. But hey, Arnie said it best. 2 points. These are huge 2 points. And now, I think they get a little bit of a break here tomorrow. I know it's tough at the back-to-backs. Arizona was here waiting, but they're banged up right now too. They're missing some key guys, especially down the middle of the ice. So I think you go into that game and you say, all right, this one is here for the taking. But it's a little bit different looking Arizona team. They don't have the kind of depth, I think, that they'd like to have. And so those injuries are going to be, they're going to be troublesome. But there's still some guys that can do some damage, no question.
Hey, let's get into this right now because he's worth the conversation. Cole Perfetti. We're going to start with you, Sammy, because you've got a long-running relationship with Cole Perfetti. Did you get to talk with him after the game, after the morning scrum there, or after the game today?
Well, just for a minute, but we didn't get into the hockey stuff. John Lou had him going on they were talking about shoes. So I just chipped in with my shoe knowledge, is basically get the cedar shoe trees. Don't cheap out and just put – you know what I mean? You're spending.
That's bang on. That's a lesson to learn. You got to get out there and let's get into that. I know you've got a story you're going to tell about Cole Perfetti tomorrow. I'm going to tell one as well. Lots to talk about with this kid. But what's that? 5 straight games or with a goal now, and 8 straight games with a point. Started the year, I don't know how much you were watching, Sammy, but started the year they were experimenting. I shouldn't say experimenting. At one point, I think they want to get Cole Perfetti to center. They tried that at the beginning of the year. A little bit of a debate there, and people, there's people have it on either end. The line really wasn't producing, but at the same time, man, were they getting chances. And Nino Niederreiter was missing open nets and off the post and so on and so forth. But they moved him back, and it seems to have done him really well, regardless of whether or not they would have been scoring on those opportunities. He seems to have taken his game a step up since he's gone to the wing. What have you seen with him for a guy that you've watched his progression from a young man, checking in on him this year in his sophomore season? What are you seeing out of the progression of this young player?
I think Cole's greatest asset and why he was drafted primarily was for his vision and his creativity, right? He could still score goals, but he was going to be able to put up points in batches based on being a distributor. So I think the one thing that sticks out right away, with the goal totals, you're shooting more. You're more confident in that area. And I think the other part of that is when you come into the league as a young player, you tend to defer. Like, oh my gosh, I'm playing with Blake Wheeler, or I'm playing with Mark Scheifele, or I'm playing with Niederreiter, whoever the case might be. So you would tend to defer. So Cole's now comfortable enough with the group and in the surroundings, and probably taking a little bit of heat off him by not having to worry about the defensive responsibilities of playing center. And so now being comfortable in his skin, I'm going to shoot the puck a little bit more. And then it was a good example. Like, he has the ability to score from distance, but that was a pretty wicked shot from distance there on his goal in this game. And I probably would have said, if this were last year or the year before, that's a puck that he tries to dish despite that lane to the net being open.
Ken, go for it.
Just to pick it up, I love the way that Cole's playing. I love that he's looking for a shot more. We've talked about it a lot. It's very, Sammy, similar to when Mark Scheifele broke in. I wouldn't say Cole's release is quite at the Scheifele level, and his shots probably needs a little bit of work to get there in terms of the strength. But I love the quickness and his ability to get it off. That was a really quick shot. It was a bit of a riser too, right? It looked like it was starting kind of a little bit low, and it kind of finished off a little bit of a rocket. Like the way that he's playing, like the way he's distributing the puck. Something, Sean, this is kind of not a sideways tangent, but Nemesnikov only took 3 draws tonight, so Cole took 6. So I wonder if we're already starting to see the seeds of maybe him kind of shifting back into the middle a little bit too, especially knowing that Velarde's, probably a couple weeks away. But anyways, I love the way that Perfetti's playing. He's been very efficient in terms of his ice time. Sam, I know you love this too. The fact that he's now bumped up onto that top power play unit in the bumper position, I think that's somewhere where Cole can really flourish.
Yeah, I agree.
He can become a decoy for Kyle Connor on that one-timer side. We know Mark Scheifele loves to have the puck in his stick along the hash marks on the left wing boards. I think that if people start to try to cheat a little bit too much to Kyle, I think there's going to be a one-timer to Perfetti available in that high slot there eventually. And that's something that we're going to be looking at over the next couple of weeks here. But I like the way that Cole's distributing the puck, but I also like the way that he's shooting. And, a big thing too, guys, let's not kid ourselves. Nikolai Ehlers, this is his 3rd good game in a row. Again, that shot is a prayer for the game winner, but he's involved. He's getting his legs going. And when you have his speed and you have the tenacity of Nemesnikov and the word processor of Perfetti, that line can be really dangerous. And, the Jets needed to get Ehlers going. We know that. We've been talking about it for a while. That's 3 good games in a row. And those two are starting to find that chemistry. And when you have that passing ability and vision that Cole Perfetti has, and you have that explosiveness that Ehlers is starting to get back with his legs moving, that can be a pretty lethal combination.
So I'm going to give a little bit of a sneak peek to one of the stories I'll probably talk about on Hockey Night in Canada tomorrow. But I had a conversation with Cole Perfetti and tried to get his take on the entire thing about, like whether he felt he was ready to play center at the beginning of the year. And I know guys like Top Line Media, who are always in here in the chat room, I know they were big believers that the numbers would suggest that it was more bad luck that was holding that line back than anything. There was a good argument there, right? But at some point, I think that, if things aren't going in the net, sometimes you just got to switch things up to try and get it going, right? Maybe Nino approaches his offense in a different manner with that line that is allowing him to, score more or whatever it is. But Cole Perfetti was kind of a believer in the idea that he didn't think that line was doing that bad. And his take on it, you can't argue with it, is Nino bangs in 2 or 3 of those goals, and we're probably not moving me off the center spot, and I may be buying myself some more time, right? One thing that he said to me is he's not giving up on the center dream, right? He says, I'm a centerman. That's what I am. That's what I intend to get out there and play at the NHL level. And so I said, well, what are some of the things that you thought that you think right now you need to show your coaches to get back there, to get another crack at it? And he said, honestly, the way that we play offense, we're kind of we're not so positional that you're locked in. Here's a center. We're all over the place. So what it comes down to for him is face-off. So I'm glad you brought that up, Ken, because he'd said one of the things he thought he did poorly with at the beginning of the year was face-offs. And this Jets staff really, really values face-offs. And that's what he said. The coaches, they really value face-offs. So I need to get better at those. And he said, so I said, so is it one of those things that you get into practice and you show them that when it's time to work on the skills, you're working on the face-offs and the draws over and over again, kind of sending the signal to the coaches, hey, I want back. I want back. And I'm going to show you, I'm working on these draws. And he said, well, yeah, it's that, but it's also the other thing. He said, I'm probably taking 3 face-offs a night when I'm on that line with Nemesnikov. And so you point out tonight, Ken, the balance has kind of shifted to the point that Cole Perfetti is taking more on a night like tonight than Nemesnikov is. I think what we're seeing here, guys, is we were looking at it cut and dry as Cole Perfetti we're trying him out at center, and they've moved him off the wing, and now he's a winger and everything's going. I think what's kind of happening here is the coaching staff and Cole Perfetti himself is kind of just slowly morphing himself back into that center role. And don't be surprised if you see him back centering that line at one point. I know he feels he's ready and that he thought he needed a better crack at it at the beginning of the season. He's not the kind of guy who's going to kick up a fuss. He's going to take the assignment that the coaches give him, and he's going to do the best he can with it. Clearly, goals in 5 straight games, points in 8 straight is showing exactly that. He's doing all the right things to get back into that center spot. And maybe he's already got one foot already back in that spot, guys. And you know, it's happening right in front of our eyes, and we just need to see it.
Sammy, can that hockey sense allow him to be a centerman full-time at the NHL level, you think, based on how well you know him going up the ranks?
I think the sense, for sure. I mean, he's always going to face this concern. You know, you want your size down the middle of the ice, and so that's going to be the number one thing. So you at his size, he's going to have to prove that he can outsmart most of the matchups that he's going to get on a particular night to have that. But really, at the end of the day, you know, the way the game's played now, the center ice position for the most part is really more about your draws. So, and there's a lot of ways to work on it. I mean, you know, Patrice Bergeron could probably start $1 million business, kind of like Adam Oates, and just you know, go around teaching people how to take face-offs and all the tricks of the trade, right? Like, but I think, you know, with Cole, I don't think he's matured enough now to not just be hung up on that. It's just like, here's where I'm going to go tonight. Here's what's going to happen. If I get bumped into the circle for 6 draws, I'm just going to take him. We'll see how it goes. So there is an adjustment element to that, but I don't think there's any question, Kenny, he's smart enough. It's just a matter of continuing to build strength and be strong and being able to go up against some of the big boys, especially in your own zone down low.
Right on. Sean, sorry, I just want to jump in. Just people who don't know, Rutger McGroarty went into the boards kind of awkwardly today in the game in Michigan and had to be taken, I think it was stretchered off the ice and brought to the hospital. So there's not a real great update yet. I think it's going to take some time. Obviously I don't expect he would play tomorrow, but it's way too early to sort of project what the injury is, how severe, what it's going to mean. I mean, yes, I understand everyone's excited about the World Juniors and everything else. I mean, Michigan's a real contender here, so Rutger's going to have to get healthy first and foremost, but obviously he would be a big part of that Team USA team, Sam, going into this year. I mean, you watch that team, you know them better than I do, but I mean, he'd be a real key cog for that club, wouldn't he, if he's healthy, as long as he's healthy?
Yeah, for sure. And they're going to have a really good team all the way around. It's not just going to, I'm just saying that the team surrounding him will be really good to help him stand out even more. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're going to be good.
I just wanted to close out something before we move on from Perfetti. What I'm seeing right now, and I didn't get to watch him a lot at the junior level. I watched him play for Team Canada, so I saw a little bit of that. What I saw from him with Team Canada, and also I went and watched him play a number of games with the Manitoba Moose, was just that. And you'll get this, Sam, that way that he's always able to kind of find space, and he's kind of just off the crowd, but close enough to the crowd that he's not being a perimeter player. And then this is another thing I talked about with him, that kind of ability to be like the chess master where, hey, I need this lane to open up, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to move that defender out of that lane with my eye or a flick of a stick or one of those kind of things and make that pass. I mean, that goal last game for Nick Ehlers is a perfect example. Every defender on the ice thinks that the puck is coming towards the net, and so does the goalie, and they all freeze, and all of a sudden the puck goes over to Ehlers, and it's in the back of the net. I don't feel like and Ken, you could correct me on this, I don't feel like I saw a lot of that from him last year. I felt like he was a player that played really well off of Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor when he was playing with them before he got injured, but he looked like a player that was coming into the NHL and trying to kind of survive alongside two really great line mates, right? I don't know if it's a stars in the eyes thing or just this is the speed of the game. I'm trying to figure it out. But what I'm seeing from Cole now is what I saw with him with the Manitoba Moose and with the Canadian junior team, in that like he's going out and he's just outsmarting so many people on the ice, and he's calm with the puck, and he's like you said, Ken, that goal he scores tonight, maybe last year he tries to dish that off. He's starting to make the right play more often. I think that just has to do with the comfort level at the game. He's looking to me to be showing off all the things that they drafted him for. I don't know that was there last year. It looks to be here now, and I think that's scary for the rest of the league, because you're starting to see a player. I mean, to me, what we're seeing from Cole Perfetti is the kind of stuff that you saw from Kyle Connor at the beginning, where you're like, oh, wow, this guy could really turn into something, right? Sophomore season for this kid. He's going on hot stretches like this. He's responding to like being put as a centerman and moved off to the wing in this manner. You're looking at we could probably look back and let's bookmark this early 2023, seeing the first signs of what Cole Perfetti became, because like Mark Scheifele was the same thing when he came up. You were starting to see it. He wasn't an instantaneous star, but you were starting to see signs of it. This is the signs that we're seeing of a player I believe is on his way to doing really amazing stuff with this team. Before we move on, I wanted to, Ken, if you could give Sweet Lou a shout out before we get too deep here.
Yeah, you bet. For the folks who have real estate needs, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, whether you're curious for what that home on the corner is going for, you can contact our main man, Lou Ferlin, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. Email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including our podcast, for which we are very grateful. Sean, I saw the originator of the buy and sell suggestion today at the game, Donnie Bergman, there with one of his sons. He was at the game, so caught up with him before, and he's happy to see the suggestion make an occasional appearance here. So let's explain it quickly to Sam here. He gets to choose whether he wants to buy and sell, but how this works, Sammy, is it's like a stock. You got to like pick someone in the game that you think is on the rise, or you're selling. You got to take someone that like isn't going in your direction right now. So you can either go first and pick a buy or a sell and throw it out there. Ken will counter with the other, or if you're not ready yet, Ken can go first. What do you got?
I'm going buy on Niederreiter. Thought he was outstanding in this game. I marked a couple of plays here. Mm-hmm. Now that I got my bulbs in and I can see them.
Sammy's got the game already figured out right here. I love it. Buy and sell right off the bat. Love it.
So block shot at the end, face-off win on the power play, backtrack to stop a good Buffalo chance midway through the second, and then obviously the 2 assists. But the pass goes cross crease to the back door, and Appleton that's pretty sick. So I'm going buy on Niederreiter. Okay, we got to go back to the days of when he was in Portland 108 years ago, and I was doing his games 108 years ago. We're going buy. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to buy on a Niederreiter contract extension. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but the Jets will want to keep him in the fold. This is a player who can play anywhere in your top 9, but if Nino Niederreiter is on the third line like he is, or third line, put that in air quotes based on how that line is playing and how they're deployed. They're more like the second line in terms of ice time, but I love the way he's playing. The human battering ram, very physical, getting involved. That line is very, tenacious, disruptive on the forecheck. They gave Buffalo's top guns a whole lot of problems today when they were out there against them, and I'm buying on a Nino Niederreiter extension. I don't know that I'm not saying it's imminent, but I think that well before the deadline, I think the Jets get something locked up with Niederreiter, who has said openly that he wants to stick around and be part of this. And Sam, the other part too, whether it's Rutger, whether it's Brad Lambert, guys you're very familiar with, whether it's Colby Barlow, I think Nino Niederreiter is a great pro that you want to have. I understand, yes, next year he'll be 32, but in this three-year window, if you want to call it, where you're going to be bringing forwards like that. Let's include Chaz Lucius, Nikita Chibrikov into that mix. With those 5 young prospects coming in at any point over the next 1 to 3 years, Nito Niederreiter is a perfect pro that you want to have around those guys, plays the game the right way, goes to the hard areas, scores 20 in his sleep 7 different times in his career. I think that the Jets want to have him a part of this. Now it's just a matter of, of course, the agent probably wants the 4th year, but I think a 3-year deal at whether it's $4.5 million or whatever the number ends up being, I think is a smart investment by the Jets for all of the reasons that he brings himself, but the leadership he can also provide and the mentorship for some of those young prospects.
That's what I was going to ask you. What do you think it's going to take? So 4.5 over 3 years? I
think it's got to be north of 4. I don't know that it gets to 5. I'm sure the agent would be asking for 5, but I think it's going to be around that 4.5 mark personally, Sam. With the cap going up, you could make the case to go, close to 5 or even at 5, but I think the Jets would probably prefer it to be in the 4.5 range. But I think it's north of 4 for me.
5, so that you wouldn't have to give him the 4th?
I think I personally would, knowing like what I just said. If you're going to be incorporating those young players on ELCs up front, and you're probably bringing in Elias Solomonson on an ELC in the next year or 2, I think you can afford that extra $500,000 on a guy that wants to be here and wants to plant the flag here.
Hey, since you guys both did buy, I'm just going to do a quick sell. I'm selling on the Buffalo Sabres 3-headed goaltender situation there. It's not working. They got to figure things out. That was a fun team to watch tonight. And
they are.
Honestly, they came into Winnipeg last year and hung one on the Jets last year and did so in similar fashion. They didn't have Tage Thompson, one of their beasts, tonight. That's a fun team to watch. Their goaltending cost them that game tonight. So sell on that. Hey, I wanted to move on to, we got to have a quick conversation about Lowry's line and get Sam's take on it, because that's, tonight, again, they're just showing what they're capable of. And you were talking about what Lou does in the community. Let's just turn this, because we're gonna bridge from the rock solid Cambrian Credit Union to the rock solid Jets third line. But just a shout out to Cambrian Credit Union and all they do in the community here. Of course, Ken and I both have our mortgages with Cambrian Credit Union. Why? Well, because they figured out great deals with us. It's so easy to go with it. Both my kids have unfee accounts with them. My wife has an account, father-in-law, everybody just going here. And one of the reasons we are so proud to do it is because of their involvement in the community, all their sponsorships and donations. 2021 alone, they committed $280,000 in donations and $160,000 in sponsorships. Proud to have them on board with Kenny and Renny, the near Kenny and Renny OGs. Rock solid from Cambrian. Just like that third line has been rock solid. Sammy, what are you seeing from that third line? You got a good dose of what they're capable of tonight. They've been doing this all season long. When it comes to a mixture of defensive acumen, that ability to grind people down, and also to contribute and put the puck in the net, where are you seeing this Lowry line rank amongst the NHL teams that you have covered?
Well, it's nice that when you have, defensive ability shut down, puck protection, zone time, there's a lot of different elements that they can bring to the table. And then, of course, you got the leadership piece that goes along with that. So there's a lot of different things that are, key to successful teams. The one thing that we've seen is this evolution of the ability to play more of your players. Like this whole top 6 thing that's like a thing of the past, right?
Yeah.
All of the winning teams now are playing, they're playing 4 lines for sure. A lot of the third, and a little bit less in the fourth line, but you need it, and you need to have that. And so you need to have that line do a number of different things, which this line can do. So I like the way it's going right now. I think, they're going to be called to the mat again tomorrow with some pretty good offensive players. And look for some matchups there to have to deal with too. And, you look at Bukestad at center, he's going to be a guy that I think Lowry's going to have to kind of combat here a little bit tomorrow. So it'll be fun to watch and see how it goes. But, when you have different elements, you got a little bit of speed, you got a little bit of puck protection, you got a little leadership, you got some defensive play, you got some face-off stuff. That's pretty good. You're asking a lot for a line of versatility, and they're delivering.
Ken, did you see anything different tonight? I mean, I like the idea of what they're going to need tomorrow night, because wasn't it that line that really kind of cued the comeback and bested the Arizona Coyotes the last time those two teams met?
Yeah, Nino hat trick, right? I mean, that was a big game for that line, and down 2-0, right? So they kind of had to get the sparks flying there, and yeah, I just love the way that they're playing, and they love this responsibility. I had a great chat with Mason Appleton this morning about how that line has been playing. I mean, we know with the back-to-back and an off day Sunday was banking something for the road trip, but just I love the way that their approach that they've been taking, and with Mason Appleton. We knew, and he knew, I mean, going into this year that he was, he's played with Adam Lowry for a long time. Their chemistry is baked in. We know that. But we also know that Mason Appleton had that great year where he had 12 goals and 25 points during the shortened season, the 56-game year. And, if you're extrapolating that, you're looking at, 18 to 20 goal guy. I mean, and he hasn't been able to sniff that since. Some of that's due to injury, but Mason's a guy that really produced well at the American League level. Has some offensive upside. Is he a gifted scorer like Kyle Connor? No, but he goes to the hard areas, does a lot of great things. He does a lot of great things that don't show up in the traditional boxcar stats. But when you can add that offensive element like he has, and you look up and see 5 goals and 12 points, well, now you're back on track for, 18 to 20 again. And that's hard to be at that level in the NHL. But if Mason Appleton can contribute offense in a manner that Andrew Kopp was producing offense before he signed, got traded at the deadline and then signed with the Detroit Red Wings. If he can become a 45 or 50 point player, that's a massive, massive step forward, Sean. We've been talking about this for years. We talked about it with Sam. That Lowry line needed to produce more offense, and now with the new the construction of that line with the perennial 20-goal guy with Nino Niederreiter, it unlocks some of Adam Lowry's offensive gifts that we know he had with the Swift Current Broncos, and we know that Mason Appleton is a guy that can produce as well. Now, again, are all three of them going to score 20 in the same year? Well, that would be an unbelievable year. But regardless, these guys are contributing offense and doing a lot of the heavy lifting and the hard work that doesn't always show up. But you know who does notice it? It's the coaching staff and the teammates know when those guys do the heavy lifting. And we also know this, Sam, when a defensive line goes up against an offensive line, guess what? Most of those offensive guys, they don't enjoy playing in the defensive zone very often. There's very few Patrice Bergerons that can do it at both ends. Yes, there are some superstars that do it, but most teams don't really enjoy getting cycled to death in the offensive or in the defensive zone, and they don't like spending the majority of their energy chasing around three big bodies who are tenacious. So they've been great for the Jets, and they will continue to be great, I would imagine, moving forward here.
No doubt. Okay, time to play, guys. Johnston Group got you covered. Play of the game, Ken. I want to hear it from all you in the chat room as well. Kenny and Renny, OGs at the Johnston Group. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Adam Lowry stick pass to Dylan DeMello after he broke his. And even though it was the wrong direction, I am giving him the award. It wasn't like the handoff from Josh Morrissey that led to a goal by Mason Appleton. But the fact that it was tremendous that DeMello, using a left-handed stick as a right shot, first whiffed on the clear, then found a way to backhand it out of the zone. Honorable mention to Nino Niederreiter, great shot block there later on as well. But I loved the ability and the heads-up play by Lowry to have the handoff, and then after the initial struggle for DeMello to find a way to exit the zone with the left-handed stick for the right-handed player. So that was my Johnston Group. Got you covered play of the game.
I think you nailed it. The Kenny and Renny OGs, the Johnston Group got you covered. Play of the game. Hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Well, look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. Okay, let's move on to the keg save of the game, in which you tell us what your keg save of the game is. Hashtag the keg save of the game, and you are entered to win a $50 gift certificate to the keg. Pretty self-explanatory. Sammy, did you have a save of the game?
3 breakaways. I'm going to go with 3.
Nice.
3 breakaways. 2 by Paterka. I think the other one was Darlene, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was, yeah. And he tries to bat it out of the air and almost gets it, but I think they called the high stick on it anyway.
I mean, everyone's going to talk about the toe save or that puck that ended up underneath the toe, and he couldn't find it near the end of the game there, and then he got it kicked out. But for me, 3 breakaway saves, man, that's a lot. That's a lot, because if you look at the typical numbers for like a penalty shot and a shootout, I didn't know what's different, right? But essentially, we're going to compare it to a breakaway. Like 33% is what the number is. So they had 3 of them. You figure they're going to score on 1 of them, and they didn't.
Well, and the background for this, something that Sammy and I were talking about, and we were talking about it before the 3 breakaways happened, Sammy. But the Jets are one of the worst teams in the league at allowing breakaways. So 3 in one game when they're trying to protect the lead, not exactly the best thing. Anyways, that's Sammy's keg save of the game. If you want to share with us your keg save of the game, you probably should, because if you do, you're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate to the keg. This week, it's not $50, it's $100. Why? Because at Lee River Guy did not get a hold of me. And so it's a rollover, $100 in gift
swing and a miss.
I just want to say this. I'm not sure what's going on here. At Lee River Guy, I don't know if he was worried that he sends me his name and now I know who he is, and he's worrying about some kind of rumble on the pontoon boats out on Lee River. You don't have to worry about that at Lee River Guy. Renny is a confidential guy. I'll keep that. Hey, I know T. Will's real name. I've known it for a long time. I haven't told anyone. It's on the tip of my tongue every show, but I would never do that to a guy because I'm confidential like that. And you don't have to worry. I thought maybe Lee River Guy was worried, Ken, because quite often he'll take on my takes. And I just want everybody out there to know,
what's wrong with that?
I'm not like Kenny. I will not force all the Kenny apologists to stick with my takes, even if they're god awful, and force my acolytes to defend my.
Stop it,
Sam. We'll get into it. We'll tell him what you did later, Ken. We'll tell him what you did later. After
Sounds good.
Show. Anyways,
maybe tomorrow.
Let's move on. The keg winner of a $100 gift certificate. That would be Jason Eastwood. Jason Eastwood has $100 worth of gift certificates, but only if, unlike at Lee River Guy, he direct messages me at SN Sean Reynolds. I need your full name and your email, and you will have $100 in gift certificates, Jason Eastwood. So pay attention, get a hold of me. Don't worry about it. You're set.
You can use any of those at any of the 3 locations in Winnipeg.
Any of the 3 locations in Winnipeg, each finer than the last. It just keeps going. They get better and better every time you go from one to the next to the next. Okay, Trans-Canada Brewing Company, lamplighter of the game. Ken, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, it is a toss-up for me, but as a person who appreciates a good net drive, I understand it's just a simple it looks like a simple backdoor tap on the highlight reel. The Perfetti goal is maybe a little bit prettier, but to me, appreciation for straight line hockey, great puck movement. Lowry, drags the D-man kind of to him to get it out wide, to kick it out wide to Niederreiter, who goes wide and rips the pass across. And Appleton, anytime you finish the play in the middle of the crease for the backdoor tap, that is getting my lamplighter, because it's an excellent play all around, but love the net drive there by Mason Appleton, and obviously an incredible pass by Niederreiter.
The lamplighter's got to be Ehlers, no? Game winner? 80 feet away?
It's okay, yeah.
Wolf?
Hey,
D-man as a screen?
That's why we have the debate.
See, if he would have said, because I have seen this happen before in games where a guy will go and he'll catch like the goaltender cheating on one side of the defender, and then as he goes and he's blind for a little bit and comes to this side, a guy shoot from way out and put it where the goalie just came from because he's blind for a second there. I think this is an example, A, of Ehlers just turning around and throwing the puck back in the zone. I don't think he's trying to do what he does there. And B, I mean, that's just Comrie to me being a little too laissez-faire in that situation, right? Like, yes, there's a guy in front of him, but it's not like there's movement. It's not like he doesn't know where the puck is. Get your head around and watch where the puck is. Like that should have been the Pristine Roofing wake-up call of the game. But hey, maybe it's the TCB lamplighter again. That's the way things can roll with these kind of things. And the way it can roll for you is you could win a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. You just have to do one thing. You just have to share with us your Lamplighter of the game. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, the nectar of the gods, you know what to do. Head on down to TransCanada Brewing Company. You can go to their tap room at 11290 Keniston, where the Kenny and Renny Christmas / holiday / December to remember / December to dismember for all the wrestling fans can come and watch a live version of the show where Ken has promised to bring a stack of his receipts. I've said I will bring a stack of my receipts. We'll see whose stack of receipts is taller at that event. So you want to come check it out, get your tickets for that. You know, December 10th is the day, Sammy. It's going to be a banger. It's a road game.
Road game.
Anyways, I
in Anaheim for the Jetsons.
I am losing my train of thought. Let's get back to announcing our Lamplighter winner from the last show, and that would be Ken. You looked it up this time. Is this coming off of? Is this a comment below the show?
Yes, that's on the comment.
So
yes,
it would be
the first one was from the show.
At Dan Dawsoj, DAW.
No, Dawson.
Dawson, you wrote a J in there.
No,
Dan Dawson,
correct,
8700. That's a weird autocorrect if that's the case. Boy, oh boy. Anyways, Dan Dawson, 8700. You are on the clock. You have won yourself a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If and only if you direct message Renny at SN Sean Reynolds, send me your full name and your email, and I will send you a voucher for a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale. There you go. A scarf deal. Don't worry about that. We got to get you down there one of these times, Sammy. We haven't done that yet, so we're going to have to do that while you're here. Anyways, guys, do you have anything else to say before we go?
No, looking forward to tomorrow. A good opportunity here on the back-to-backs. I don't think you can be in a better spot with a team that's banged up right now. So good opportunity to continue.
3 games in a row. It's interesting because my piece I did for Sportsnet before this, I had in talking with Carol and Cameron before the game, I had suggested, the hockey gods have been smiling on the Jets as of late, right? The Devils come into town. Jack Hughes is out of the lineup. Nico Hischier is out of the lineup. Tage Thompson falls right before he comes to this game, and now this game you're walking into the Coyotes team that's banged up. Nick Ehlers is scoring those kind of goals. Everything is coming up Winnipeg Jets right now, even having Sammy the Scarf on the broadcast tomorrow on Hockey Night in Canada, baby. It doesn't get any better than that. So make sure you tune in and watch. Harn Ryan Singh, Sammy Cosentino, and Sean Reynolds will be your broadcast crew. It's going to be a great one. And after that, we will do Kenny and Renny all over again. And I believe Sammy the Scarf is coming on tomorrow again as well.
You're gonna have to. I need a lamplighter though.
We'll get you some lamplighters to keep you going. They sell them in the arena. We can just casually strut around the arena with lamplighters and then be like, oh man, I got to hit my TV spot. That's what we'll do. Anyways, thanks everybody for showing up, sharing your comments with us. I want to say thank you to, and say, hey, if you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space for us. That's Vittorio Rossi, the Johnston Group, Sweet Lou Furlan, Pristine Roofing and Siding, Cambrian Credit Union, the Keg, and of course TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you for choosing to spend your time with us. We absolutely love it, and we can't wait to do it again after tomorrow's game, Hockey Night in Canada. We'll see you then, everybody.
All right. Good night.